If you saw the phrase IRS just changed the payment system and wondered whether your Social Security check, tax refund, or federal benefit payment could be affected, this video is for you because this topic can sound confusing when people mix the IRS, Treasury, and Social Security into one headline. The IRS handles taxes and refunds. Social Security handles retirement, disability, SSI, and survivor benefits. But the U.S. Treasury is connected to how many federal payments are actually sent. Today, we are going to explain what changed, why paper checks are being phased out, what seniors should check in their Social Security payment setup, and how to avoid confusing a real payment system change with a scam. I am Andrew, and I have been reviewing official IRS, Treasury, and Social Security information about federal payment changes. Everything here is based on public information from irs.gov, treasury.gov, and ssa.gov, explained in simple everyday language. Before we get into the details, if you find this kind of plain language explanation of Social Security, Medicare, IRS rules, payment updates, and senior benefit issues useful, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, this channel takes one confusing government topic and explains it in the same calm, straightforward format. Now, let us get into the real question. What changed in the federal payment system, and why should seniors check their Social Security payment information? The biggest misunderstanding about the IRS payment system change is that people think the IRS has changed Social Security benefits directly. That is not exactly how it works. The IRS does not decide your Social Security retirement amount. The IRS does not calculate your SSI payment. The IRS does not decide your SSDI benefit, but the IRS and Social Security are both connected to the Treasury payment system because federal payments often move through Treasury systems. The major change is that the federal government has been moving away from paper checks and toward electronic payments, including direct deposit and debit card options. Treasury announced that the federal government would stop issuing paper checks for most federal payments starting September 30th, 2025, with limited exceptions. To make this easier, let us use an example. Consider someone like Beverly. Beverly is 74 years old, lives in Missouri, and receives Social Security retirement benefits every month. For years, she received her payment by paper check because she felt more comfortable seeing the check in her mailbox. Then she hears that the IRS changed the payment system, and she worries that her Social Security may stop. But when Beverly looks closer, the issue is not her eligibility for Social Security. The issue is how federal payments are delivered. If Beverly still depends on paper checks, she may need to understand direct deposit, direct express, or a possible Treasury waiver if electronic payment is not workable for her. In Beverly's situation, the benefit itself is not the first question. The payment method is. Let us start with the foundation. The federal government sends many different payments. Some are tax refunds from the IRS. Some are Social Security retirement payments. Some are SSI or SSDI payments. Some are veterans benefits, federal vendor payments, or other government disbursements. Even though these payments come from different agencies, the U.S. Treasury is often involved in sending the money. That is why a Treasury payment system change can affect more than one program. Now, let us talk about what changed. The federal government announced a move away from paper checks and toward electronic payments. The White House executive order on modernizing payments directed Treasury, to the extent permitted by law, to stop issuing paper checks for federal disbursements, including benefits payments and tax refunds, effective September 30th, 2025. It also encouraged payment methods such as direct deposit, debit, and credit card payments, digital wallets, and other modern electronic options. In plain English, the government wants fewer paper checks and more electronic payments. The reason given is that electronic payments are faster, more secure, and less likely to be lost, stolen, altered, or delayed. The IRS specifically said paper tax refund checks for individual taxpayers would be phased out beginning September 30th, 2025, and that direct deposit helps avoid problems like lost checks or refunds returned as undeliverable. You might be wondering, does this mean Social Security checks are gone for everyone? The careful answer is most federal payments are moving electronic, but there are limited exceptions and transition help. Social Security posted guidance explaining that beneficiaries who need an exemption from electronic payment requirements must file a waiver with the U.S. Treasury by calling. SSA also said technicians are available to help beneficiaries with the transition. This is where seniors should pay attention. If your Social Security already arrives by direct deposit, this change may not require much action from you. If your Social Security already goes to a direct express card, the same may be true. But if you still receive a paper check, or if your bank account changed, or if you recently closed an account, or if your direct express card is lost, this is where you should check your payment setup carefully. Now, let us separate the IRS from Social Security. The IRS payment system change mostly affects tax refunds and tax payments. For example, if you file a tax return and expect a refund, the IRS is moving away from mailing paper refund checks and toward electronic refund delivery, but Social Security payments come through SSA and Treasury payment systems. So when a headline says IRS changed the payment system, it's saying it may be referring to the broader Treasury payment modernization, not a change in how SSA calculates your benefit. You might be wondering, will this change my Social Security amount? In most cases, no. A payment method change does not automatically change the benefit amount. If you receive $1,850 per month from Social Security, switching from paper check to direct deposit does not make that amount larger or smaller by itself. Your benefit amount is still based on Social Security rules, your earnings record, COLA adjustments, Medicare deductions, tax withholding if you requested it, and other benefit specific factors. The payment system is about delivery, not the benefit formula. This next part is important for people who receive SSI. SSI is also generally delivered electronically, and SSI recipients may use direct deposit or direct express, but SSI is a needs-based program, so bank accounts and resources can matter in a different way. If a person receives SSI, they should understand both their payment method and their resource rules. Direct deposit itself is normal, but SSI recipients should still keep track of countable resources, income changes, and reporting responsibilities. Now, let us connect this back to Beverly. Beverly's first worry was that her Social Security had been changed by the IRS. But after looking at the actual issue, the answer was clearer. Her Social Security eligibility was not being removed by an IRS rule. Her monthly amount was not being recalculated by the IRS. The practical question was whether her payment method needed to change from paper check to an electronic option. That is a very different kind of issue, and it is much easier to solve once it is understood correctly. And finally, this is the piece that ties everything together. A payment system change can create confusion because it affects the way money arrives, not necessarily the right to receive the money. A senior may still qualify for the same Social Security benefit, but need to update direct deposit information. Another person may still qualify for a tax refund, but receive it electronically instead of by paper check. Another person may need help using Direct Express if they do not have a bank account. The important thing is to verify through official sources, not through random phone calls, text messages, or letters that demand personal information. So the clearest answer is this: the IRS and Treasury payment system changes are mainly about moving federal payments away from paper checks and toward electronic payments. Seniors should check their Social Security payment method, especially if they still receive paper checks, recently changed bank accounts, or need a waiver. But this change does not automatically mean your Social Security benefit amount has changed. Before we finish, let me answer three questions that come up most often about the IRS payment system change in Social Security. Question one: did the IRS change Social Security benefit amounts? Answer: no. The IRS does not calculate Social Security retirement, SSI, or SSDI amounts. The payment system change is mainly about how federal payments are delivered. Question two: are paper checks ending for federal payments? Answer: the federal government began phasing out most paper checks starting September 30th, 2025, with limited exceptions and waiver options in certain cases. Question 3, what should seniors check? Answer, seniors should check whether their Social Security payment is going to the correct bank account, direct express card, or approved payment method, especially if they previously received paper checks. Everything we covered today applies generally, but your exact answer depends on your payment method and benefit type. For Social Security payment information, sign into your My Social Security account at ssa.gov or call Social Security at. If you need help with a Treasury electronic payment waiver, SSA says beneficiaries can contact Treasury at. For IRS tax refund information, use irs.gov, and the Where's My Refund tool for tax questions, use irs.gov or call the IRS at. For Medicare questions, visit medicare.gov or speak with a SHIP counselor for free Medicare help. One factual note before we finish: scammers may use this payment system change to call seniors and say, your Social Security will stop unless you give us your bank information. Treat that carefully. Social Security and the IRS do not ask for bank login passwords, gift cards, cryptocurrency, or remote access to your phone or computer. If someone contacts you claiming they must update your Social Security payment immediately, hang up and contact SSA directly using I am curious. Before watching this, what part of the IRS payment system and Social Security question was most confusing to you? Was it whether paper checks are ending, whether direct deposit is required, whether the IRS controls Social Security, or how to check your current payment method? Leave your question in the comments because the most common questions often become future videos. That is, IRS just changed the payment system. Seniors must check their Social Security now, explained as clearly as I can put it. If something is still unclear, the comment section is open and I read every question. If this was useful, share it with someone who still receives a federal payment by paper check or is confused about direct deposit. I am Andrew. I will see you in the next one.